Apyayantu mamangani vakpranashchakshushrotramatho balamindriyani cha sarvani sarvam brahma upanishadam maham brahma nirakuryam Mama Brahma Nirakarot Anirakaranam Astvanirakaranam Me Astu Tadatmani Nirateya Upanishatsu Dharmaste Mayi Santu Te Mayi Santu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay, so far, having reconciled how you can have attributes come out of an attributeless reality, just like you can have tree come out of a seed. And yes, we know that the seed, it's a limiting example because a seed is attribute, but besides the point, it's meant to demonstrate it is possible already. So like this in Vedanta, we have some examples to help us understand, such as the dream, such as the seed. All of these are examples to, kind of point out what is going on right now. And again, we are given, this power to dream, and through dreaming, we can make a lot of, inferences and see that there is a possibility that you can have, attributes manifest out of one awareful conscious being, and from the standpoint of the dream, the world, it seems like the awareful being is, one single individual who's going through and changing directions and going from one place to another place. And there's movement and it all seems very real. And so in the dream, there's the subject-object split. There's me, the subject, and there's everything else that I see as an object. But from your standpoint, you're the subject and I am the object. So now am I am I the subject or the object? I am a subject. No, but you're an object, Andre, from my standpoint. So in other words, if I look at you, all of us now, then you are all objects to me. But if you look at the rest of us, then you're, right, the subject, and we're all an object. And then when we all look at you, you're an object for us, and the seer is the subject. So if you do this inquiry, you will see that there are many, many objects, but there is only one subject from different standpoints. Okay? Because we said that because of your subtle body, you're able to see the world. A rock is not able to do that because it doesn't have a subtle body. That's why a rock can't say, oh, I am. Only one with a subtle body can say, I am. Therefore, like this, in the dream, just like when a subject gets born or manifests, then a subject can say, I am. But the manifest tree over there cannot say, I am. But it doesn't now mean that the subject and the object are different. You see this? It's just manifesting as two different things. The subject is given a subtle body by which they can say, I am. But the tree or the rock over there is not given a subtle body, and even though it is also the awareful being, it's also nothing but Sat and Chit, it cannot make such a claim. But either way, it is all one being manifesting as many. And we said that this one being, the awareful being, there's a word for it, which is, we said is Vivarta Upadana Karanam. So Upadana Karanam means material cause, but Vivarta means apparently modifying, apparently changing. That means not actually. In other words, when just like in your little dream world, it seems like you, the awareful being, are actually changing, and you think, oh, this is all, So from the standpoint of ignorance, I think it is all changing. But if potential was stuck onto awareness, so now you could say something like, isn't potential, right, which is actually parinami upadana karanam, that means it actually changes. Okay, look at this, important inquiry. Your potential to manifest the universe is parinami upadana karanam. Upadana karanam means material cause. Parinami means actually changing. That means intelligence is constantly reshuffling itself to manifest as these objects. Right now it's happening. So now you could say something like, well, how do you show that this potential is not an attribute of awareness? Well, you can show it right now, because were it to be stuck onto awareness, that means since the potential is constantly going into a flux, since the potential is parinami, it's constantly going into flux, then if that which goes through a flux was stuck onto awareness, that means it was an attribute of awareness, then you couldn't find right now something that is consistent as your I am, I am, I am. Because awareness will be too busy reshuffling itself, changing from one moment to another. There will be no stable entity. But in our experience, there is always one stable entity, vivarta upadana karanam, who remains stable in and through all of the different changes that are happening. And by that being's potential to manifest, which is parinami, in other words, it goes from manifest to unmanifest, by that potential, which goes from manifest to unmanifest, it's able to manifest this world. So this means awareness cannot manifest without potential to manifest. If awareness didn't have knowledge and power, the potential of knowledge and power, this would not be happening right now. We would not be here as subject-object. If awareness was just awareness without having any potential to manifest, where's classes? There's no classes. It would just be, we would all just be relaxing deeply inside, our being as ourselves. But it happens to be such that awareness has the capacity to manifest the universe. And because it has it, why is it like that, Andre? I don't know. It's just like that. So the question is not why is it like that? The point is it's like that. Where's the proof? Right now is the proof. So the challenge is not that the potential is alive. So what? Let it be. Because you're still given the key to come out of it. And what's the key to come out of it? The key is suffering. That's the key. If you're just having a good time, like you're not going to look for the answers. If you go to heaven and it's just so beautiful out there, music is so majestic, you're not going to look for the truth. You're just going to help, just want to go deeper inside this melodious music and just eternally dance the cosmic dance. So you come here and you go, it's fine here, but there's more. And that's this more. Earth gives you that special place, that privilege to say there must be more. Only here it can be done. There are now beings who are in different realms, in heaven, in different realms. According to the Vedas, there are many worlds. And they're having much better time than you and I are now. Much better time. But they're having such a good time that they will never come to a point and say, and what do I make of this? Is this going to end? They're having such a good time, even the discernment to say, to ask, is this ever going to end? Even that has been temporarily put on the side because you're having such a good time. That's why we say when you're, maybe it's some phrase that's made up, what, love blinds you? I heard that phrase somewhere, love blinds you. So I'm not saying that's true, but there's some truth in that. That means I'm so much in love that I'm blinded by the fact that this can end any moment. I'm so much in pleasure, in dance, that I forgot what was the real purpose of coming inside this dream. So the dream itself has many, many dreams within dreams within dreams, worlds within worlds within worlds within worlds. And jivas go through all sorts of worlds. This is not one place alone here. There are many, many worlds throughout the universe. Specifically, how many? Infinity, according to the Vedas. There are infinite worlds. And these worlds are all populated by beings, infinite beings throughout the universe. How special is this then? Of course, this is one thing that you cannot quite directly prove that there are other worlds. There are some things that in the Vedas you have to take by mere authority. There's a lot, for example, when it comes to past lives, there's more proof of continuity of life than there is absence of proof. And we're not talking about past life regression. That's not even part of it. But there is so much logical, analysis that goes into continuity of life that it's just very hard to dismiss. Okay? So again, Ishvara is the one who saves you. So there's no question of dismissing Ishvara because you are still bound by your own laws. Your own laws are created in such that I cannot violate them. And by doing so, I make my mind not compatible with this knowledge. I don't make my mind compatible for this knowledge to stick because I know how it is in classes. It's very beautiful and you're in this kind of a bubble. But the real challenge comes, right, when we go back and it's, the knowledge stays with you in the shopping mall, on the road, and it's just consistent. So therefore there is, that putting that deeper and deeper and deeper, and that only goes through practice. That's the only way. And that's why we have the Bhagavad Gita to put this into practice, to make the mind friendly, knowledge-friendly mind. So Ishvara saves you, awareness doesn't save you. Even though awareness is the truth of everything, it doesn't save you. Were it to save you, you would have been saved a long time ago because awareness is always true. And thereby, there's no question of losing humility and thinking that I don't need Ishvara. It is just utterly devotional life. In fact, the more you understand this knowledge, it goes initially, at least what I've observed, from knowledge into utter devotion. Just pure devotion. Narada Bhakti Sutra even, points out that knowledge without devotion, it's not actual, it's not actualized, it's still here. In my own experience, I've discovered this change. It started out when I began teaching a lot of, logics and a lot of, all the stuff in the mind and the Adi Shankara's brilliant logics. But as time passes, it's just more devotion, more and more and more and more devotion, helpless devotion. And that devotion, that where it's emotional, is an expression of your deepening of that knowledge. So like this, there's no question of just staying at some sort of a superficial level. It's a continuity of the work. And that devotion needs to come there because it lets you know that you are deepening yourself into this knowledge. Okay? Therefore, yes, Ishvara, it's one reality, but then we said, can Ishvara and Brahman be interchanged? The answer was no. Because Brahman is, we said, Vivarta, in other words, is a nicer word, is Kutastha Nityatvam. Kutastha, which means like an anvil. Kutastha means anvil. Like, why would Brahman be compared to an anvil? And Nityatvam means eternal. Brahman is an eternal anvil. You know anvil where you mold metal? Yeah. So, thank you. So the reason for this is because with an anvil, right, it's so strong, you can constantly sculpt things on it. It's like the substratum, so hard it remains the same. and you keep on just sculpting and sculpting. So the world keeps on changing, explosions and Big Bang, and it all just things happening, but the anvil remains firm. It never gets changed. Kutastha nityatvam. Nityatvam means eternal. So it's eternally itself as it is. That means it was never anything else than what it is right now. And what is it right now? I am, I am, I am. So it was always I am, which is known to you right now. And it never undergoes change despite its own potential, right? Making these forms constantly shape and mold themselves. Okay? And Ishvara is, there's another word, which is pravaha nityatvam. Pravaha is actually like a river. And so it's like an eternal flow of river, an eternal intelligence that just keeps flowing. And this intelligence, from it comes time, space, and objects. Time, space, and objects resolve, but the intelligence just keeps on flowing. So intelligence is forever. It never ends. Time and space resolves, but intelligence goes from potential to manifest. In other words, knowledge power in potential, knowledge power in manifest. Nothing's changed. It's the same knowledge power. It's just from potential to manifest. Potential to manifest. But it all throughout, it is knowledge and power. Knowledge and power. Whereas time and space, that can resolve. That can resolve for, Big Bang and, the universe singularity and so on. Just like today is a manifestation of today. Today was not manifest yesterday. Yesterday was manifest yesterday. Yesterday is now unmanifest. Today is manifest. Now tomorrow, is that manifest? No. When tomorrow comes, today will be unmanifest. Knowledge power, all of it will be unmanifest. And tomorrow, knowledge power will be manifest, but it will be arranging itself differently. And therefore, a different day will come. Different emotions will come. Different thoughts will come. Different person will come. A person who will be one day older will come. Yeah. Yes. Okay? So this means you can't see, we're all now waiting for tomorrow. But the law is set up such that you cannot bring tomorrow because Ishvara is the governor of the universe. Ishvara will bring tomorrow. We cannot bring tomorrow. But it's nothing but one intelligence shaping as now. Now. And then now, but it's nighttime. Now it's daytime. Now it's this. Now, and then in a couple of days, you will be looking at your house. Now you'll be looking at a different face. Same intelligence constantly manifesting, reshuffling itself. One intelligence, one content, reshuffling itself to appear as all of this. And its being rests in one awareful being, known to you as I am. And we also said the only way to understand Ishvara, the only way to understand awareness is through Ishvara. That is your refuge. Because you cannot go from form to formlessness. It just has no connection whatsoever. You need that intervening factor, which is intelligence. In fact, before that, you need something more. We need to go from snake, remember pratibhasika, first pop out little bubbles, and there are many more bubbles to pop. And then when we pop the bubbles, then the student is, of course, assuming we're all sitting here, right? We've popped enough bubbles to even be sitting here, right? That's obvious. But just the journey, this is the journey, popping the bubbles, and then one's available to see the rope. I'll be seeing snakes all over the place. Even though the whole thing was a dream, I've superimposed my own dream on top of the dream. So I was living in my own dream, and I couldn't see the dream. And thus, I couldn't investigate because my own dream was distracting me. Therefore, getting rid of those snakes, the mirages on the desert. And then one's available to see the rope, and then can start to inquire into the nature of the rope. Rope resolves into atoms, atoms particles, particles quarks, quarks ultimately go into a cause that you cannot define, you cannot see, but at the same time it has to be there, because you cannot have nothing come out of. You cannot have something come out of nothing. Okay? So Brahman being Vivarta Upadana Karanam, there is an example to help you understand this. What is an example of Vivarta Upadana Karanam where it seems to be one thing, but there's actually no change? This is the snake and the rope example. So the rope remains the rope all the time. But what I see it is what it's not. So no change happens to the rope whatsoever, even though it's capable of appearing as a snake or something else that looks similar. So this is one example of Vivarta Upadana Karanam. And when it comes to Parinami Upadana Karanam, when it comes to intelligence, then we use the clay and pot example, or we can use the table and wood example. So this is where, actually a better example I find is plastic, because plastic you can bend. Okay, this is brittle. So plastic you can keep on bending like a cup, and however you bend it into, plastic is always there. So the material, the parinami, the material is constantly shaping and shifting, but whatever it shifts into, the material is always there. But it's capable of shaping and shifting. Whereas a snake, the snake never undergoes any changes. What does move is my own idea about what the snake is, my own superimpositions.
What I thought is, so we are, our thinking is a manifestation of the intelligence, as all is. So we are, with our thinking, what we are doing now is to understand through the manifestation the cause, the ground, the substance.
Yeah, so it's interesting because through this manifestation, it gives you the power to think. Okay, and it also supplies you the power of free will. You can either think this way or this way. And through that power to think, I can start to think about what is it that makes me think? What is it that supplies my thinking? What fills up the contents of my thinking? Yeah. Or I can just fill up contents of my thinking and think about that.
Yeah, the thinking is the manifestation.
Yes, this is it. Therefore, the thinking is used to inquire what fills up, what makes thinking possible, which is exactly the question that the student asked at the beginning of the Kena Upanishad. Because of what? Is there a presence because of whom my mind is able to think? And that presence is Ishvara. That presence is knowledge and power by the help of course, awareness. Therefore, the student use their thinking in the right manner to understand that, so my thinking, through my thinking, I can understand that my thinking is molding and shaping, but there is something underneath that that is always true.
And also, the thinking is a molding, is a manifestation of the reality.
The moving.
Yes.
The moving is also definitely all so in other words, it's knowledge and power reshuffling itself, like now, reshuffling to appear now, reshuffling to appear now. And so what you're seeing is really frame by frame by frame by frame by frame by frame. But it all seems like one smooth thing that was going on. And yet it's just one manifestation, another manifestation, millions of manifests, unmanifests, manifests, unmanifests, manifests, unmanifests. And it all gives you this impression that it's all just one smooth, existence.
The metaphor of me dreaming, and scientists say that the dream lasts about 4 to 6 minutes, which is very little compared to 8 hours of sleep. And when I'm in the dream, it appears to be much, much longer, like almost eternity. And when I look at my life and using this metaphor, it's like 80 years of a lifespan, which seems to be so much, but compared to the lifespan of the whole universe, it's so little.
Yeah, you can see how relative even this, it's amazing, how relative even a sense of time is. When you reference to something else, it's nothing. I think a mosquito lives about 7 to 14 days. Imagine a mosquito, you'd say, a mosquito asks you, how long do you live, Mr. or Mrs.? 80 years. That will be such a shock for a mosquito. And yet we ask, we can ask a deva, as a being from a different world, how long do you live? 1,000 years or 10,000 years? And you say, oh, that's so long. They say, no, it's very short time. So it's totally relative from what standpoint you're looking at it. So the whole thing is relativity. It's all relative. The whole thing is relative.
Yeah, but the relativity appears in the reality, in the unchanging reality. And the relativity is the unchanging reality.
Yeah, so in other words, reality appears as relativity, and relativity is constantly shaping and shifting, and yet whatever shapes and shifting is the reality, giving an appearance that the reality is changing. Huh?
That's why it's called relative.
Yeah, it's relative to another potential. So it's like this, but there's a potential for it to be something else. So it's relative to something that is yet to manifest. So in other words, relativity is just a name for knowledge and power, from going from manifest to unmanifest, manifest to unmanifest.
I was triggered by you mentioning your teaching style shifting more also like the bhakti. I had some discussions with the Vedanta friends, and I can see now we're in a misunderstanding, like it's like interpreted as levels of understanding. So bhakti is just a stepping stone for the ultimate truth. But the way you say it now, it's all included.
All included, yeah.
So the Brahma awareness is not like, you can't do without, I hear you say that. Because like, we were talking and I was like, the bhakti was like, oh, you're still on that level, we are here.
Yeah, bhakti, yeah.
Confused me.
Yeah, bhakti is an evolving understanding. That will make more sense because we have a difference between Brahmavid and Brahmanishta. Brahmavid, they're both liberated, but Brahmanishta is solid in their knowledge. And the more you solidify your knowledge, the more devotional you naturally become. Okay?
That's exactly the other way around as where our discussion was going. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay, so this will be mentioned specifically. Why do I say that as your knowledge deepens, naturally and helplessly you become more, gentler, more devotional, more, I could even say, emotional, but in a healthy way. Before it was just all solid mechanical. This is Brahman, this is awareness, this is Ishvara. Just solid, kind of like a dry, this is what it is. But then it becomes a lot more, moving, like a little dance, and that is bhakti. So bhakti is the ultimate expression of your understanding.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can I say one more thing? I just realized the more I'm at home with myself, meaning consciousness, the less I'm interested in new experiences or changing the experiences that I experience. I'm just more at peace with every experience that is manifesting in the moment.
This is of course, and can we relate to this? The more you're, deepening yourself in the knowledge, it's not like you're using experiences to be something that's not to be experienced, but you see through it. You know what it is. It's lovely. It's lovely to have, but there is something much more in terms of your understanding. And also we need to understand that experiences are all Ishvara also. Okay? But then again, it doesn't mean, just like Krishna, he had a different interaction with Arjuna versus Duryodhana. He knows both of them are just expressions of himself, of one reality, but still he acts differently. He has a different attitude towards either of them. So this means, yes, all experiences are Ishvara, but I still have a different approach towards different experiences. Therefore, it's fine. You can still, enjoy and live your life out, and it's good to not deny oneself because, as we said, hobbies are very healthy, and healthiness is also part of your devotion, okay, your mental health. Okay, so we said that all that is here is knowledge, and the truth of knowledge that is manifesting as what you're seeing and hearing now, including the student, the teacher, the tradition, everything, the Upanishads, the whole thing is knowledge. Knowledge comes from Ishvara, not from a human being, because a human being is born, as we will see soon, with ignorance, and therefore they need something more to figure it out. Therefore, the knowledge comes from the eternal cause, the beginningless cause, and that much I can have faith in. And it's not something just to have faith in, but using logic, you can see that you cannot contradict what is being shown to you. Okay? So everything here is manifesting as knowledge. The truth of knowledge that is manifesting here is awareness. And how do we come to this understanding? We took any form you can take, and begin your analysis. And we begin to analyze the mithyas within mithya, mithya within mithya within mithya. No matter what you look at the table, it's relative to the wood. Wood is relative to the lignin. Lignin relative to the atoms. Atoms are relative to the constituents that make up the atoms. All across, the whole thing is relative to something else, dependent on something else. Okay? And ultimately, you come to one undefinable cause. You cannot see it, you cannot touch it, but you can only see the effects of it. In other words, the intelligence is not something that can be seen, but we can only experience the effects of it in reference to forms. Just like I cannot see your subtle body, but I can see your subtle body. How? As the effect by the words that you use. When your mouth opens, those words are symbolic representations. They are effects of something that I can't see. So I don't have to see a subtle body, but I can see the effects of the subtle body. Like this, I don't have to see intelligence because I can't see intelligence, but I can see intelligence as manifesting as all this right now, the effects. And this intelligence manifesting, the blueprint manifesting as all this, it cannot be outside a conscious being. Just like your dream, which is nothing but knowledge and power, it cannot be outside you. It depends upon the conscious being to keep manifesting, to keep molding, to keep shifting. It needs a solid platform, a kutastha, an anvil upon which it can dance, upon which it can mold and shift and shape. Just like one conscious being unchanging in the dream, amidst the unconscious being, there are shifting and changes going on constantly. In that same manner, knowledge, which is constantly shifting and shaping and changing and molding itself, rearranging itself, reorganizing itself since beginningless time, and it will never stop, by the way, it can only do that in the presence of one unchanging common substratum, one existence which is supplying it with material, but without the existence itself actually undergoing any change. Just like the awareful being is supplying the whole dream with material, but the awareful being remains a awareful being. In other words, the awareful being remains as is. That's why we say it is without undergoing any change. It is kutastha. It is eternally as it is, eternally aware, eternally infinite, eternally one.
And Andre, if you have people without the knowledge of all this.
Sorry?
The people, let's say, people without the knowledge of all this, they are only devout and they trust Ishvara completely. They also make, because Ishvara is knowledge, Ishvara feed them with knowledge. Is it, the trust in God? It changes them by grace of Ishvara. Is it possible that they also get the knowledge about what we are teaching with Vedanta and everything, that you come to understand that?
So the question, if I understood, is that those who are devotional, those who are bringing Ishvara into their life, could they come to a place that they discover that their truth and Ishvara's truth is one? I have not seen that before. I have not read that anywhere before. I would say no, because you need to know who is it that I am devoting to. Otherwise, the mind, as we said, pratibhasika, always overrides and maintains its default state. It maintains itself as the superior world. And that world I'm worshipping. So I'm worshipping Ishvara as my own idea of Ishvara. And knowledge needs to pop that bubble so that I can see that Ishvara that I've been worshipping is not some thing, some form, some kind of a thing that's away, but Ishvara is very flesh, very mouth with which I'm moving and chanting.
But is it, you see that people can transform when they have that devotion and they try to understand it, like Ramakrishna, that you go further and then you understand, but you have the devotional period first.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go into the knowledge, seeing everything as one.
Yeah, so it is. So exactly. And there is, I will point out an order. It's like, see, we all start off with like a single wave in the ocean. And we're totally oblivious about the ocean itself. It's just all for me. I'm one wave, you're one wave. You can take care of yourself, you take care of yourself. And then something comes into your life and maturity starts to flourish. That means now I start to see that all waves are actually within one total order of the ocean. So now, how do I do that? I bring some, actually knowledge. Devotion is just an expression of knowledge, because you can only devote towards something if you know what it means. If I think it means nothing, I'm not going to devote. So I have to know something about it and see how it relates to me and see the implications of what is it that I am devoting towards. And that requires some kind of knowledge.
Yes, or maybe the grace of Ishvara.
And of course, and grace specifically means when you put effort into that devotion and you continue to be involved, right, in the lineage, and little by little, right, someone says one thing, someone says another thing, but the thing is, it's very unpredictable this way. Would you kind of rather just sort of, depend on like a different opinions, or just like sit down and, get to know the meaning of Ishvara, get to know the meaning of the world, which specifically focuses on what is Ishvara, right? So it's, right, there's an approach, but we say generally that devotion, you start out with devotion, and that gives you enough maturity to pursue what is it that I'm devoting towards. What is it that I'm, because the more you devote, the more you want to know, I want to make love to it. And to make love to something, you need to know, what are you going into? What is it that I'm going into? Therefore, I need to know it more and more and more. So devotion gives birth to the desire for learning about and connecting deeper with what is it that I'm devoting. Either way, knowledge is required.
Meister Eckhart has a beautiful saying. Meister Eckhart is a German mystic from the 12th century, non-duality, but from the Christian from the Christian way. He says, "I pray God to become freed from God. I pray God to become freed from God."
Free from God.
Yes.
In other words, to become free of my idea of God. Okay, I understand. Okay, so I pray to God to become free, that there is a God out there who is separate from me. That's how I interpret it.
Andre, can I ask something? Because you said Ishvara as an intervening factor, and then she used the word grace.
Grace.
When I listen to everything, and then it's still it comes an idea that it is a gap, that is a mystery, something that I can't understand. But then you just said it's undefinable.
Right. Undefinable.
Yeah. So Ishvara is for me then the bridge with will through which I can the formless thought, because this is when this formless thought come, then you can not it's not understand, it's not a word. You know.
So the question is, okay, so let me just clarify. Are you saying that you're unable to connect to Ishvara because it is being specified as undefinable?
No, I'm saying, I think, up to now, I think Ishvara is the only way I can know the mystery.
Ishvara is the only way you can know the mystery, yeah. Because Ishvara is, number one, the whole thing, and Ishvara is the one that gives you grace. How does Ishvara give you grace? By your prayers, by your sincerity, by the knowledge taking place, by understanding the connections between yourself, the world, Ishvara, and awareness. But that knowledge can only take place because of Ishvara, because Ishvara is feeding your thoughts with ability to think. Even thinking itself is possible because of Ishvara. To ask, put hands together, is because of Ishvara. To have a desire is because of Ishvara.
If that's so, then what is our free will if even the thoughts are from Ishvara?
Good. So Ishvara supplies the capacity of free will, and that free will is able to then change course of direction. But that which supplies free will, the ability to choose whether I want this pen to write with this pen or whether to write with this pen, that is because I am endowed with free will. So free will says, here's the world, do whatever you want. But I'll also give you a program in which you can do. That's called dharma.
And also the thoughts.
Yes.
Take the green pen or the red pen.
Yeah, so the whole thing is Ishvara, the whole thing is intelligence. But then that intelligence manifests as a selection mechanism, a mechanism that gives you ability to select this from this. Now, even that is Ishvara, of course, but it's a unique kind of endowment that lets you move wherever you want. That's the advantage of a jiva, that the jiva can use this free will, which is intelligence, is Ishvara, to say, I want to know what Ishvara is, or I don't want to know what Ishvara is. Okay? Yes, it is Ishvara, but there's also, right, endowment of free will to choose. So if we have an order to this, final reality, awareness. Awareness enjoys capacity to manifest the Jagat. This capacity is called Maya. As this capacity manifests the universe, then that same awareness assumes the role of creator, called Ishvara. As manifestation takes place of sentient and insentient objects, you are one of those sentient objects right now in the manifestation. And you're endowed with free will to conduct your life as you wish. And that sentient being looks at this world and says, I am just one of the many. Then the teacher comes in, the methodology comes in and says, you are one of the manifestations of Ishvara. Ishvara has its reality not apart from the final reality, which is awareness. And how is that awareness known to you right now, being a jiva? I am, I am, I am. Awareness, potential, manifestation, jiva. Whichever way you go, it is one reality, manifesting as knowledge, as world, as jiva. Jiva equals awareness, world equals awareness, knowledge equals awareness, potential equals awareness. However you look at it, it is one manifesting from different standpoints to which you then give a different name for the sake of helping the sincere jiva understand what on earth is going on here. And for this, you need grace. That means sincerity, desire to understand, desire to deepen, desire to know more. And this desire, this Icha Shakti, which you're endowed with, not only desire to know, Jnana Shakti, or desire to do, Kriya Shakti, but especially desire, endowment to desire, power to desire, which is Icha Shakti. You can use this Icha Shakti to know that your truth and the truth of all that is here is one, known to you right now as I am, I am, I am. Vedanta is showing us what is here and now. Vedanta is all about here and now. What is here now? Form. What else is here and now? Awareness. What else is here and now? Intelligence, manifesting as form. What else is here now? Potential for that form to be something else in the next second. There's a potential for your thoughts to be different 5 minutes from now, for your body to be different 10 years from now. You don't have access to that potential because it is yet to manifest, but the potential for your body to be 10 years older is in potential. And you will get there when you get there. But until you get there, the potential remains in potential. Awareness is here and now. Forms are here and now. Intelligence, manifesting as all this, reshuffling itself as all this, is here and now. And potential for this to be something else in the next second, for that flower to be different tomorrow, is also here and now. Brahman is here and now. Jiva is here and now. Maya is here and now. Ishvara is here and now. Jagat is here and now. What is not here and now? That's why Vedanta is not a belief. We're not talking about something that is somewhere away. It's talking about what is always the case, what's always true, what's here and now. And it needs to be brought out by the methodology.
And you could say your free will, as he was asking, is also given now, and you can choose to do with the teaching.
And you can choose with that free will to collapse the potential to know what is here and now. And that you are not different from what is here and now, which is awareness. Or I can use that potential to collapse many other options right now. Become a singer, dancer, which is all wonderful. But the highest use of that free will, the absolute highest use of free will, is to understand what is here and now, which you are not apart from, which you're not away from. It is only one reality manifesting as potential, as knowledge power, as world, as jiva. All of it is here and now. Nothing's missing.
Is somewhere else.
Nothing is somewhere else. It's all within one total reality as this. And it will never be anything but this, because this is how it's set up. This is Ishvara's setup. This is Ishvara's creativity. Clouds and a sun. He gives us clouds and a sun. That's Ishvara's creativity. And air to breathe. Ishvara has made it such that when a baby comes out of the womb, it's going to take its first breath. And then it's going to go through the whole cycle of maturity, old age, disease. And then again, it's going to get a new body. That's Ishvara's creativity. And Ishvara gives you the key to come out of it. I'll give you an advanced mind. I will give you free will. A dog doesn't have it. Dog jiva is yet to come to that level where that jiva in the dog has the free will. So they have yet to come to that level, but it's still a jiva. It's still a sentient being. So you're given an advanced instrument. You're given the values. You're given the tradition. You're given the guru. You're given the tradition. You're given the suffering to make a choice. That is the key. So when we look at it from this standpoint, suffering becomes your greatest savior. In reference to my discovery of the highest, suffering saved me. In reference to not wanting the highest, suffering becomes an obstruction. That's called Chavarka, one of the schools where you just indulge yourself. Therefore, you can never separate manifest and unmanifest. You can't ever separate anything here because there's only one. You can't separate manifest and unmanifest, or potential and knowledge, because knowledge is always in potential manifesting as this, out of potential manifesting as this. So Maya and Ishvara is constantly like this, simultaneously, because Maya means potential, Ishvara means manifestation. Okay? So it's not like Maya once upon a time was back then and now it's all gone. It's all here now in this moment. So we said that Maya is knowledge and power, all knowledge and power in potential. Now there are two more understandings to know what how Maya manifests the universe. And Maya enjoys two powers. Maya. Okay, the first one is what's called Vikshepa Shakti. Vikshepa Shakti is the ability to generate objects. So Vikshepa means, like in your dream, right? You have a power to project your knowledge and make a world out of it. This projection is able to kind of put it all together and just create this instant world of manifestation. In scientific terms, we call this Big Bang, right? From nothing, not nothing, but from knowledge power, sudden projection instantaneously of the entire universe comes like that. This is because of Vikshepa Shakti. And we also, at the level of the individual, how do we use this Vikshepa Shakti? So at the level of the macrocosm, the Samashti, this Vikshepa Shakti constantly projects new weather, new clouds, new, whatever, everything new. But at the level of the individual, this Vikshepa Shakti becomes superimposing on other people, superimposing upon yourself, okay? Superimposition. That's why in psychology you keep on saying that's your projection. Careful, that's your projection. So on the macrocosm level, it is the most beautiful thing. It generates all sorts of worlds and lovely things. But at the level of the individual, it becomes a go get some help. You keep on projecting on yourself. I'm a small person, you're like this, you're like that. And therefore, the person that has to go through Bhagavad Gita, values, and living the right life, and therefore bringing dharma to negate the effects of superimposing on other people, superimposing on itself and what life is all about. And then we have Avarana Shakti. Avarana Shakti. Now, Avarana Shakti, at the level of the world, just like in your dream, you have knowledge, and this knowledge can divide itself. So out of one homogeneous intelligence that you're carrying now, one homogeneous potential you're carrying now, it's able to split itself and create a tree and have just enough data to only create a tree and not fire, because you need different components to create fire than a tree. Therefore, it's going to hide fire components, and it's going to project, by the power of Vikshepa Shakti, is going to project components just sufficient to create a tree. And then it's going to hide up in order to create down. It's going to hide cold to create warm. It's going to hide warm to create boiling. So when it comes to the macrocosm, it takes one intelligence and it's able to create duality. Otherwise, if I look at your body and I say, it's quite a sophisticated instrument, but does your body have fire? I mean, it has fire, but your body doesn't quite have the right constituents to be the dog, a body, to be a worm body. The worm body is a worm body. To be a worm, you need to hide information, not to be a dog. To be a dog, you need to hide information, not to have a tusk or a trunk, which is for an elephant. So, Avarana Shakti from the macrocosm creates differences by hiding certain data. It withdraws data so that the sun doesn't have, carbon, but it only has helium and hydrogen. So I have to hide other elements from it, such as gold and copper and iron, so you can only have helium and hydrogen. However, when the same Avarana Shakti that creates duality and hides information to create differences at the level of the individual, what do you think it does? Yeah, it veils everything from you. It veils like the basic how to walk. How many of us know how to walk when we're born? It veils language, it veils mathematics, it veils history, it veils geography, it veils basic common 1 + 1 you have to learn. It's like the biggest, most difficult thing when we get born. Therefore, at the level of the individual, the same Avarana Shakti that is creating this beautiful world of difference, when it comes at the level of the individual, the Vyashti, it makes you ignorant about a lot of things. Not just who you are, never mind that, a lot of things. Walking, talking, basic movement, basic walking. And then it also hides your true nature. And how long have these two powers existed? Considering Maya is never separate from awareness, and awareness is beginningless. Awareness is beginningless. The potential in awareness is also beginningless. This potential always has the power to project. So how long has the world been projected for? Beginningless time. How long have things been different? Beginningless time. And whenever the jiva comes, for how long has that jiva been ignorant? Beginningless time. Because Maya is beginningless. And Maya's Avarana Shakti is beginningless. So there was never a time when you were liberated. There was never a time when you knew who you were. There was never a time that you knew I am awareness. And all that is here is Ishvara. Every person who ever gets born is under the spell of Avarana Shakti, which at the level of the individual is called, basically in English, ignorance, or we say avidya. Avidya. And so what does this avidya do? It causes havoc in our life. Because I'm born how? As a little individual who then has to satisfy myself to relieve me from this existential angst of feeling like a small being. And therefore the life of seeking continues. Okay. And then we will do further revision next session. Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Avashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.